Fabric Gems Boutique is a video podcast where we celebrate the art of quilting. Each episode will be packed with inspiring guests from every corner of the quilting world, sharing their best gems of knowledge, creativity, and passion. Whether you're a seasoned quilter or just getting started, there's something here for everyone to help you create your own gem. Discover the hidden gems of quilting. And now, get ready for Fabric Gems Boutique with your host, Chris O'Connor.
Hey everyone, it's Chris O'Connor here with Fabric Gems Boutique video podcast. Woo, this week's going to be something awesome. I am so excited. I've never really interviewed or spent a lot of time with somebody who designs fabric. I am so excited to share with you Amy Latta Creations. I'm telling you, we are in for a treat. Amy, thank you so much for being here. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you are, and I'm going to switch the view here so everybody can see your smiling face instead of mine. Welcome.
Thank you so much. So first and foremost, I'm a wife and a mama. I have 2 teenage sons who just graduated from high school. So this has been a really crazy month for us. And my heart, I'm feeling all the things, Chris, all the things. But creatively, I've been someone who loves to do all kinds of craft projects ever since I was a child. I can't remember a time that I didn't love to create. And my mom is super creative too. Actually, I don't know if you remember, Chris, you got to meet my mom at Houston Quilt Market.
Yes.
And we were there together. And she taught me to sew. She taught me how to cross stitch and embroider and crochet and all the things when I was young. And I just carried over the love for that into my adulthood. And professionally, I didn't pursue that at first. I was an English teacher for 4 years in the county public school system. And then I was actually a ballroom, Latin, and swing dance instructor for another few years, which was a ton of fun. But then our first son was born. And when Noah was born, I really wanted to stay home with him full time. I didn't want to miss a moment. And so as I was at home with him, we were doing all kinds of creative projects. And one day I was looking online for some ideas to do with him for St. Patrick's Day. And I came across someone else's craft blog. It was an art teacher who was posting all kinds of resources and lesson plans and things that she had done with her students. And I thought, wow, this is amazing because it's just so many ideas and they're free and they're wonderful. I wonder if I could take what Noah and I are doing and make those things available for other moms, people who are looking for the same kinds of things creatively that I am. So it gave me an outlet. It was something to do. Since I was at home with him all the time, I was kind of craving something that would give me a little interaction with adults. And so I started my first blog, which was called One Artsy Mama at the time. And that's kind of the beginning of my creative journey professionally.
Wow, that is so cool. Okay, we have some similarities there because I wanted to be a stay-at-home. I was a stay-at-home mom, and then my son went to school, and then I became a substitute teacher, and then I became an art teacher because I loved crafting too. I loved creating things. My grandmother, my mother sewed. Both my grandmothers did. My mother sewed. They taught me, and I was a stay-at-home mom. I made our curtains. I made our pillows. I made our blah, 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 right? Yep. During the time I was an art teacher, boy, wish I would have known. Obviously, it was before the internet really was the internet. A lot older than you think I am. And if I could take all those lesson plans that I created and put them out there, oh my gosh, that would be such gold. But I don't have any of that. But what an interesting journey. I didn't do ballroom dancing.
So fun.
I did go to the Arthur Murray Studios to learn how to dance, but
there you go.
I still don't know how to do it. But anyways, I love to dance, even though I don't really care what people think of me when I do. What an interesting way to progress in your journey and what similarities that you and I have. That's so interesting. Maybe that's why I gravitated towards you and really enjoyed talking to you. We actually met at the Houston market down in Houston, Texas, and just had a delight chatting with her and her mom, really everybody in Houston. And it was so much fun. It was actually only my second year. How long have you been going to the Houston market?
That was actually my first one.
Hmm. And how did you feel about going there? Was it overwhelming or fun or all of the above?
All of the above, I think. It was just amazing. I had the opportunity to go with Andover Fabrics to promote my
Mhm.
first line. And I didn't really know what to expect because although I've been doing all the art and the creating for years and years, the quilting part is relatively new to me. I've only been doing it for about 3 years. And so I wasn't really sure what to expect. I've been to other craft trade show kind of things like Pinners Conference. I've taught there.
Mhm.
But just to have the whole thing be all about quilting and sewing, it was, I mean, talk about kid in a candy store. That was, I'm like, wow, me. It was so much
Yeah. Yeah, I'm telling you, the first year I was so overwhelmed that on Saturday I left at noon because I just like it was just too much. And I don't get overwhelmed easily. But
fun.
this and then the second year, the year that I met you last year, I didn't have enough time. So, because of now I know what to expect. Now I knew, where to go and blah blah blah. But
So
I
much to
hope
see.
Oh my gosh, and here's the interesting thing that I've been told by many people who have been going for years that it's only half the size that it used to be. So can you imagine it even twice as big as it was?
I cannot, but I did hear that spring market is coming back this year.
Yeah, in Missouri, I just got an email about it. Yeah. Are
It's,
you going to attend?
I'm not sure yet. I have to figure out because I'm not sure what Andover's plans are. Because H&H is around that same time in Chicago, and I know they had a big presence there this year. I couldn't go because of my son's graduation, but so I'm not sure, what they're planning on doing, and I go where they go. So
Right. Well, absolutely. I mean, they're producing all your beautiful designs. So, well, since we're talking about fabric and quilting, don't you have a book that's upcoming or out?
I
Is it
do.
out yet?
No, not yet. It comes out August 19th.
Oh,
So yeah, I back in 2017, my first book came out. And back then, my focus was really on hand lettering, which is like modern calligraphy.
mhm.
And it was something that I was learning myself at the time. So my blog kind of transitioned. I told you it started as One Artsy Mama because I was doing all the crafts with my son. But
Mhm.
as kids tend to do, he grew and then he started school. And then it wasn't these kid projects anymore. And I thought, oh, what am I going to do? Either this season is over or I have to evolve and turn into doing big girl projects. So I sort of shifted to a focus on the things I was creating versus what we were creating. And one of the things that I was doing was I was teaching myself how to do this hand lettering that was becoming really popular. And that was a big turning point for my business because I got this whole new audience. Instead of just young moms who were looking for things to do with their kids, I had
Mhm.
all these interested in art folks who were coming because they wanted to learn how to letter. And through that, it's a very long story for another day, maybe at market this year. But I ended up with a book deal with Page Street Publishing Company, and we put out Hand Lettering for Relaxation, which has sold like close to 200,000 copies, and it's been an amazing journey. And so because of the success of that, I've been able to publish several other hand lettering books as well as doodling books, because that's really kind of my wheelhouse is the lettering and the doodles and just all the fun little drawings. And so doodle everything, doodle all the animals. So basically, for me, my book journey had kind of been in that wheelhouse for a while. And then I ended up kind of falling into the quilt world by accident. So I was at an event for Missouri Star Quilt Company had called me because they were looking for someone to teach quilters how to do hand lettering on fabric. They wanted, you know how important quilt labels are, and
Oh,
just
yeah.
right. You want to personalize them. You don't necessarily just want it to be like printed. You want it to be in your handwriting. And so they flew me out there. And I was like, what is this town? This is amazing. And so I got to film for their YouTube channel a whole series on hand lettering on fabric. And
Wow.
so then, that relationship continued to progress, and they flew me out again another time for something for Block Magazine. And I was like, I feel like it's kind of unfair that I'm teaching you to do the thing that I do, but now you have to teach me to do what you do. And they were like, cool, yeah. So they taught me how to quilt. And it was the one thing I was always scared to do because I didn't know about rotary cutters. I didn't know about templates and rulers and all. Like, I thought I was going to have to sit there with scissors. And I was like, no. So when I realized how accessible it was, I was hooked immediately. And so I ended up kind of in this quilting world by accident. And so as a result, I'm writing these books with my publisher, and they came to me and they were like, you know something about quilting, right? And I said, well, yes, I'm learning and I'm doing the thing. And they said, we're actually looking for someone to write a quilting book. Would you be interested? Yes, I would. So that's how the quilting book came about. And I'm really excited about it. Like I said, it comes out August 19th, and it's called Quilting for Everyone. And my intention behind it was to make it valuable for any level of quilter. So, I mean, even, someone like you who's been quilting for ages, you can pick it up for the patterns. But it also has introduction and information that's designed for people who are, like I was, intimidated by quilting and think you can't do it, and you don't know what the tools are or how the process works, and you don't really know what the quilting actually is. And so my goal was to break it down, just like I do with the lettering and the doodles, break it down into the smallest possible steps so that anyone can follow it and be successful.
That's exciting to me because I'm intimidated by quilting. I go to these quilt shows and I look at these quilts and I think, oh my gosh, these women have, and men, okay, have a lot of patience. I don't know that I have the patience to do a lot of what they do. I'm a 3-yard quilter. I have a fabric cafe. Donna Robinson, Fran Morgan and John Nozzle. John Nozzle is a friend of mine. He actually used to work for me way back in the day. And, it took me like 5 years to even crack that pattern open. And once I did, I was like, oh, is that all that is? I mean, it's really, I mean, if you know how to sew on a sewing machine, really, anybody can do it, honestly.
Exactly. And I think one of the things that I tried to do in the book, it's not all quilts, because a lot of times you buy a quilt pattern book, and it's literally just all quilts. And I know for me, like, I will never make 50 quilts. Like, it's just not happening.
Right.
I'll make a few, but I also incorporated lots of small projects. So like I have this little patchwork pouch because that's a great way to learn patchwork. I have table runners. I have, little wall hanging type things. I have other little pouches and a tote bag and an embellished denim jacket because I'm a sucker for embellishing Goodwill jackets. And, just things that you can do in an afternoon, because I know I tend to be impatient myself. And I do enjoy completing a big quilt. There's something to be said for that feeling when you're like, oh, but like there's also a lot of satisfaction in, I have this afternoon, what can I make and walk away with?
There really is. And, I think that there's a fallacy that people who make quilts, that's all they want to do. But I have found that many of them love those like short little projects or 2-hour projects or, an afternoon project, whatever that afternoon time frame is for you. I mean, and they love to use the scraps from all the stuff they have left over, right? We don't like to throw the scraps away because they can be used for something. And like your bag right there, scraps are perfect for things like that. And what does that take? A couple hours really put together? I mean, I love that you incorporated that into your book because I think that might open the world to a lot more people wanting to. And honestly, I feel like there's not enough people sewing the younger generation.
Yeah.
I was taught by my mother and grandmother, but in high school, that was part of one of our curriculums, sewing, learning how to sew, learning, accounting, learning, we had whatever the semesters or 6 weeks. And so I just wish we could bring all that back to schools because I think we would have a lot more people involved in it. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, absolutely. I had little units, like when I was in middle school, I remember doing home ec, and we had like basic things. when I was in high school, I chose to take, there was a needlepoint class, there was a flower design class. So of course, those electives, I was like, give me, give me, give me,
Yeah.
But I think there are definitely a lot of kids who um, would enjoy the opportunity to be creative that don't feel like necessarily they can. And so they choose other things. So I do like that it used to be something that everybody got to try, because you never know until you try something whether you're going to like it or not.
It's very true, because I was at a client's home, or I mean, office the other day, and she was telling me about her niece. She's 10 years old, and she picked up knitting, and she was asking me, where should she go to find blah, blah, blah. And I was like, how exciting is that? She just picked it up on her own. I don't know if she watched a
Right.
YouTube channel. I don't know if she saw a friend's mother, grandmother, somebody who was knitting, and now she is in love with it. So I feel like that was like really exciting to me to hear that a 10-year-old wanted to learn how to knit. There's not many of those out there, for sure.
But I do think, like, how for crochet, they have those Woobles kits that have like all the beginning stuff that you need. And so my son actually, he wanted to learn how to do that because he loved stuffed animals growing up, and he wanted to make the little stuffies, the amigurumis. And so he got hooked on the Woobles. And I mean, he crochets them. He actually makes them and sells them, gives them as gifts. And I thought it was fantastic because they were able to market that in a way that makes it feel relevant to kids now. And something that he saw on the shelf and was like, yeah, I want to do that. And I mean, 3 cheers to them for that.
Well, that's exciting. And I love that your son, and I don't know if both of them do, but I love that they're doing that, because I think we need more men in this kind of world to do those kind of things too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a woman's sport per se. So, I mean, I feel creativity is a stress reliever for me. It like gets me into the creative world where I can shut the rest of the yuck out, right? The negativity, and I can just be in my own little world creating something, whether I give it away or not. And then when you finish the project, it's like, wow, look what I accomplished. And I think that we need more positive reinforcement like that, because I don't know how much of it is left out there in this world.
Yeah, and I think that's why hand lettering for relaxation did as well as it did, because people were looking for kind of that me time, that almost meditative kind of, I'm going to do this creative thing, and like you said, tune out the rest of the world, and I'm just going to be in the zone and let myself make something. And I think there's something very therapeutic about creating something.
There really truly is. I have always been in awe of people who can create that beautiful lettering. I've never been one of them, but I might have to buy one of your books to learn how to do it, because I enjoy that. And I love learning how to do something new, and adding that to my list of things to learn. As I get older, I want to learn more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what were you going to say?
I just said it's easier than you think.
That's what everybody says. But I just said that about quilting too, right?
Exactly. I think we kind of build things up because you look at someone else's finished project and you're like, oh, I could never do that. Like, forget it. But anything, and this is what when I teach my art doodling classes and all the things that I've ever taught in my life, ballroom dance included, you break it down into the smallest, tiniest step. Like, everyone knows how to take a step forward. Everyone knows how to take a step to the side. It's just a matter of how are you going to combine those things to create the dance? Or, everyone can draw a circle. Everyone can draw a semicircle, a rectangle. It's how you combine those shapes that gives you the doodle. And when you know how to do it, then you can.
Yeah. It's interesting because when I taught art, obviously it was kindergarten through fourth grade. Well, I shouldn't say obviously, but it was kindergarten through fourth grade. And, that's the levels where you're just trying to teach the basics. And, the thing that I used to try to get across to most of these kids or children is that art is not perfect. And please don't worry about going outside the lines, because you never know what kind of masterpiece you're going to create. And I can remember that so many times, especially like in kindergarten and first grade, second grade, so many of them would stress out because, oh my gosh, if they were coloring something and they went outside the line, it was the end of the world. And I'd always ask them, why do you feel like this is the end of the world? Like, why are you so upset? Oh, my mom is going to be so upset because I colored outside the line, because I didn't stay within the line. And, I just felt really bad because really art is supposed to be creative, and everybody's art is different, right? I mean, it's to the eye of the beholder. And it was hard sometimes teaching kids, let it just be free with it. Just whatever comes to you, that's what you're supposed to be producing or coloring or drawing. One of my students was in my son's grade, and he went on to be a masterful artist. I mean, the artwork that he creates now is absolutely amazing. And he used to hide it from his parents, but because I gave him some, accolades and loved what he and kind of pushed him and moved him, he became something that he's very, very proud of. And now his parents are very proud of him too. But it's just interesting how sometimes we have this expectation that it has to be perfect. And I feel in the art world, with your drawing, with your doodling, with your quilting, if your points aren't perfect, who cares? It came from you, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think it's amazing and sad how young an age we start worrying about making mistakes. Because very small kids don't care. But then there comes this point where we feel the pressure to be perfect. And so that's why every time I teach, no matter what the subject matter is, my tagline is always practice makes progress. It doesn't make perfect. That's a terrible saying because none of us, nobody's perfect but Jesus. And so
Exactly.
being him, I'll never get there. So I just settle for getting better. I want to be better today than I was yesterday. And that's what I tell people is the more you repeat it, the more you practice, you'll notice that you like what you did today better than what you did yesterday. And that's really the goal, is just getting better, learning more, trying new things.
I love that tagline. Say that tagline again.
Practice makes progress.
I love that. I love that. I might have to put that on my computer sometimes because, I try to
Yeah,
be perfect too for my clients. And,
don't we
you
all?
know, yes. And then I have to step back and say, look, good enough is good enough, right?
Yep, you have to set yourself free from that because you're literally never ever going to be perfect. So if that's your expectation, you're always going to fall short and you'll always be disappointed in yourself. And who wants to live that way?
Well, and also I think that prevents people from starting
Mhm.
something. It doesn't matter
Yep,
what it is in the creative world. People can say I'm not creative, but God gave us a talent. And we
exactly.
all are creative in our own way. It may not be like Amy's or Chris's or whoever, right? But you can't like expect perfection out of the gate.
Right.
And
And the
I think
comparison game
that
is another thing I could talk about all day is don't compare yourself to other people. But
yeah, absolutely. Just be you, and just create, just start. It doesn't matter where you start, just start and step out of that little comfort zone that you have of yourself and that ridicule you have of yourself and just pick something up that you've always dreamed, whether it be knitting, whether it be crocheting, whether it be doodling, whether it be quilting, whether it be creating fabric, designs. I mean, I want to hear more about so your journey took you. Where did it come up to play that you wanted to start creating your own fabric?
so I think it's been on my bucket list for quite some time. I can't remember exactly the first moment when I thought, oh, I really want to design fabric, but I think it was very shortly after I started quilting because I would have ideas in my mind. I would be making these projects and I do tons and tons of Christmas projects, for example, and I wanted like a certain color scheme. And I was like, oh, I just wish I had fabric that looked like this, with my trees on it or whatever. Or I wish I had fabric that had my flowers on it or my little bumblebee. And so I just sort of started mulling it over. And I had played around on Spoonflower a little bit because that's a platform where people can upload designs and then you can like actually get the fabric printed. But I never went so far as to get it printed. But then I was at a quilting event and I met the folks at Andover and I'd used their fabrics before. And I met a couple of their other designers. I met Stephanie and Renee, and they were fantastic. And they were just so excited about the idea of taking their designs and putting them onto fabric. And I was like, this is what I want to do. So I reached out to Andover, and Adam, the president, he responded to me and he liked my artwork. But the problem was I was submitting like my doodle designs just to show them like this is the kind of art style that I do and all, but I wasn't submitting it in a way that looked like what you need for fabric, if that makes sense, because fabric is surface design. It's that repeating pattern. that's going to
Mhm.
go over all your yardage. And I was sending these little one-off, like, here's a bumblebee. And so I think like they had a hard time envisioning like how does this translate to fabric? We like the
Mhm.
illustrations, but so what I did was I took an online class, and it was about how to create repeating surface patterns. And the prompt for it was you were supposed to do like a hero image, where you picked an object, and it could be any object you wanted, and you had to make flowers bloom out of it. And then you would take that hero image, like elements of it, and create like blender patterns and things, and bigger, more bold patterns. And so I started there, and my object was a spool of thread. And I was combining my love for doodling with my love for sewing and quilting. So I had my spool with my flowers blooming out, and that was my hero. And then I went from there, and I did like some loopy threads, and I did lots of big, bold blooms and little tiny flowers. And once I had it all together, I sent that to Adam, and he was like, oh. And so he immediately said, we want to move forward with this. We signed a contract, and that was the start of the Bloom and Sew collection.
Wow, that is so cool. So I always wondered how people did that. I mean, I mean, you just basically laid out a plan for somebody if they want to design fabric, what they need to do, right?
Yeah.
Honestly, I didn't even know that class existed, that you could, well, I'm learning all kinds of things in the fabric world. I know more about small business than I do the quilting and fabric world, but I'm learning, and that's pretty cool to be able to take a class. And then, so how many of you out there in our YouTube land or video land that are watching this, how many of you have wanted to create your own fabric? I think Amy just laid out a great plan for you. A really great plan. So how long was that class? Was it like a 6-week class, or?
It was like a self-paced thing. And so it was like the challenge is this, and then you make this, and you could share the things. There was like a Facebook group, you could get feedback and all. And honestly, like I didn't do most of it. I tuned in for the part that taught me how to do the repeating pattern, because I could create the one-off things, and I just needed to know like, how do I make this repeat?
Yeah, connecting the dots, basically.
Yeah, so I kind of like picked and chose like the things that I needed from the class. But I mean, you can certainly work all the way through it, and that's probably the best way.
I mean, yeah, it depends on what you want, but you went for exactly what it was that you needed, because
right.
You
That was
had
the
a dream. You had a dream. You wanted to do fabric, but you didn't know how to get it to the way you had ideas, they had ideas. And then what you did was you took a class to marry those ideas. And because you are so talented, which so many people are out there, which they don't believe they are, but you are extremely talented, because I feel like if somebody's designing fabric, there's a lot of talent there that you haven't even tapped into.
Yeah, and it's so fun because for our collections for Andover, we usually have a minimum of 24 prints that are part of the collection. And that's kind of like the goal number. Sometimes there's 25, 23, but mine typically are 24. And it's 8 different patterns in 3 colorways each. So, like if I have polka dots, I have it in 3 different colors. And then I have like the big sunflowers, 3 different colors. And if I have one that has my hand lettering on it, 3 different colorways. And I work with, so at Andover, there's a design team in-house, and I submit my artwork to them. And I work with a wonderful, super talented lady named Laura. And Laura takes what I send her, and then I send ideas for like, I think these are the colors that I want to use. And I might do like a version in this color and one in this color. But sometimes like I'll send her extra, and she'll choose like, okay, I think for this, we're going to go with these 3 colors. And for this, we're going to go with these. And sometimes she'll add suggestions to make things better. And she plays around with all the colors and just works her magic on her end. And she also is very good at fixing or creating the repeat. Once I had learned how to do it, and it's a time consuming thing to do the repeat. And then eventually Laura was like, I can handle the repeat on my end. And I was like, oh, good. Okay. So I just send something that kind of looks like what I want it to look like. And she makes sure that the repeat works in her little magic way. But it's been a wonderful collaboration.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, what a fun job to have, to see what designers bring her, and then she can make it come to life. And has the abilities to choose. Do you have favorite colors you like to use?
It all depends on the collection. So Bloom and Sew, which you can't really see, it's out of the frame, but it's back here. It's the here. It's the soft colors that are like my branding colors. My very favorite color is this blush pink, and I love teal, and so I have like those kind of nice, soft, feminine colors in Bloom and Sew, and that's kind of what I gravitated to because they're my favorites for that first collection. But then when we talked about a second collection, Sunny Honey, which is behind me, Andover was specifically looking for a new sunflower and bee line. They like to put one out each year, but they always want it to have a different spin on it. And a lot of sunflower and bee fabrics out there are very realistic looking. So you get like these hairy little insecty bees, and like mine are totally different from that. They're just absolutely whimsical. They have smiley faces and little rosy cheeks. They're, I mean, just doodled fun, and just very playful. So when I went at that, like knowing that it's bees and sunflowers, obviously we're going to do yellow and black. And then I brought in green, green for the leaves, and then you're going to need blue for the sky. A lot of collections with this theme don't have blue, and I feel like they're missing out because the blue really grounds it and brings it all together. So that kind of created itself color-wise, just based on the subject. And then like Forest Friends is my little doodled animals, my woodland creatures. So I have like bears and deer and moose and raccoon and all those fun guys. And so of course that's going to have your greens, it's going to have your browns, and it depending on your subject matter, I think that kind of develops your color palette.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you, just curious, then you don't have to tell me your secret or not, but do you look at all your competitors and say, okay, they're lacking this, this is what I'm going to do?
No. I basically create what I want to sew with. Yeah,
Right.
like I think about like what, and maybe in a way, it's like I've noticed that when I go shopping, like I want patriotic fabric, but I can't find any that has poppies, that kind of thing. Because like my Osei Can You Sew line that comes out next January, it's the red, white, and blue and all. And I thought that the hand lettered like phrases from the America songs, like all of our, patriotic,
Yeah.
I don't want to say hymns, but you know what I mean? Like the Battle
Yes.
Hymn of the Republic and the, all those good things.
Yeah.
I wanted those lettered, which obviously doesn't exist out there now. And I wanted poppies because of the soldiers and the veterans and the Memorial Day and all of those things. And there wasn't a collection out there that had it. So I was like, well, got to make it. So, I mean, I don't necessarily sit and flip through everyone's catalog and say, oh, what's missing? But I think sometimes, I just get inspired by like, I really want to create something with a line that looks like this and it doesn't exist. So I'm going to make it.
I think that's awesome. That's your intuition talking to you that there's a lack in the market without even really looking at competition.
Right. Yeah. Like I'm not doing research.
Right. And I love to hear that because it's coming from the heart, it's your intuition. Like, people need to have this. I need this. So if I need this, others will want this too, because I don't disagree with you. So much of the, say, patriotic or sometimes the animals or the fall, they're all very, very similar. And it's like,
yeah.
I guess maybe I'm a little bit more whimsical like you are. Not too crazy, but I don't know. There's a feeling. I think there's a feeling with fabric. Is there a feeling with fabric? Oh,
absolutely. I feel like I want all of mine to be so cheerful and on the whimsical side, the fun, the playful. I want it to feel light and bright and cheerful, and not all fabric gives off that vibe. And I mean, I know people have different tastes. I know there are people that love things that I would never buy, and that's fine because, we all have our taste. We all have our own home decor. We all, and I'm glad that there's something for everyone in the market. But I feel like sometimes for people like me who like that whimsical, fun, playful kind of feeling, there's not maybe as much fabric out there for us. And so here you go.
I would agree with that because, I don't see a lot of it. And I see a lot, manufacturers. And I have to try to decide what do I want to put in my Etsy store. Now I realize you're not supposed to buy what you like for your store.
How do you not?
You gotta add things to it. But
sure. But I feel like that would definitely inform your purchasing decisions if it appeals to you.
I mean, I have to love what I sell, right? And if I don't love it, it's probably not going to sell. That's the way I look at it. So
Right.
I do choose things that I like. I'm not one to choose things that I really dislike, but I do like that fun, whimsical, blowing hearts at people, or, I don't know, the writings. I love the writings. The doodling, I guess you would call that. And I enjoy those kind of fabrics. And I have a few too. But I don't have a lot. I used to have about 400 bolts sitting in here, and I'm down to about 250, 300, somewhere in there. And so I'm trying to change over. Some of the stuff that I have is vintage. It was from a friend who had an Etsy store, and I bought her Etsy store, and so I sell the quilting fabric. So I love the new, the whimsy, the
Mhm.
I don't know, it just makes you feel good,
Yeah,
honestly,
absolutely.
for sure. Okay, so we kind of talked about your creative process as far as going with how to design fabric and taking classes or a class. Um, what about your community that you have built? I mean, that's amazing. 4,000 plus members, I'm assuming.
Yeah, they're pretty wonderful. It's very cool. Because I mean, I have folks who follow on like my regular Facebook page and my Pinterest and all of those things, but I noticed that there was a lack of the ability to interact with people there. And at the heart of everything, I'm a teacher. That's what I was, no matter what the topic, it's what I am. And so as I'm creating and I'm putting out content on my blog, or I'm teaching at these workshops around the country, my goal is always to interact with the end user and to actually teach someone something and to see what they create. And so one of my favorite things is always walking around a workshop and looking over everyone's shoulder and what are you doing? What did you make? Let me see. As an art teacher, like that's the best part, is seeing the
It
finished
really
product.
is.
And
Mhm.
so I was feeling this real disconnect where, I'm just constantly putting stuff out and putting it out and putting it out. And I never see anything like, is anyone doing it? Did anyone make it? Does anyone like it? Can I answer a question for you? And so then Facebook came out a couple of years ago with the idea of Facebook groups, where you could have these private groups that allowed you to have discussions and threads where people could post pictures and questions. And so I really gravitated to that. And that's the group that you're talking about that has about 4,000 folks in it. And it's a private group because when I made it a public group, we got all kinds of strange spam things in
Oh,
there. Like, nope, nope, shut that down.
yeah.
So you actually have to request to join it. And there's like a question that just says, what's your favorite type of crafting? And there's no wrong answer. As long as you say something that sounds like a craft, even if it's baking, I don't care. But like, as long as you say something that lets me know that you're not a spammer, then you get to come into that group. And the main purpose for it is that we have a supposed to be weekly show and tell thread where people can post pictures of their latest projects. And it can be something that's inspired by one of my patterns or projects, or it can just be whatever you made. I have a friend who goes to every free workshop at the library and makes projects literally every day. And she's like posting her library projects. I'm like, that's fantastic. People will do like a renovation of their craft room. People will bake cookies and decorate them and put the pictures in there. I'm like, great, show me whatever you made, show me. And I think it allows for that sense of community that like, hey, we're out here, we're making things, we want to, because I know like for me, when I finish a project, the first thing I want to do is show somebody. And so I have this like list of people that I text, like anytime I finish a new project, I'm like, look what I made, look what I made. And so I think that's kind of a natural thing for a creator. And so this is a place where you can come and say, look what I made. And then there's 4,000 people to say, ooh, I love that. And it's just really fun to be able to foster that. And give people kind of a sounding board and also a place to ask their questions.
Well, and I would think that it motivates maybe, or inspires, maybe the better word, inspires people to step out and do things on their own because they see all these other people doing it, right?
Right. And
And,
they see that
and
other people are successful. And I mean, they can also see that, and people will post things and say like, oh, I started this like 4 years ago and I just finished it now because I set it in a drawer. And, and so it's that common experience of like, oh, I've been there. I have those unfinished projects. I should get that thing back out and finish it that I started. And, or somebody will post something and, like a quilt and say, oh, my points are all wonky, but look, it's done. And everybody's like, woo. And it's that same thing, that freedom to, okay, well, her points weren't perfect, but she finished, and something to celebrate.
Well, the thing of it is, unless you're being judged, nobody notices.
No.
Honestly, unless you're like a really particular quilter, but hopefully that particular quilter won't be like, oh, you missed that point, you missed that point, right? I mean, usually they don't. I mean, they're just, nobody cares, nobody notices. So here's one of the things that I've noticed most about women is, and maybe you've seen this in your Facebook group, but women will share a project and then they'll point out everything that's wrong with it. And you're like, I didn't notice. Why did you have to tell me? Now that's all I'm going to look at, right?
Right. It's always the disclaimer, like, this isn't perfect.
So please, women, stop like doing that. You created it. You finished it. It's beautiful. Nobody notices your mistakes. Only you do. And we are our own worst critics, aren't we?
Oh, we are. We absolutely are. And I know, like, so my son, one of my sons who just graduated is going to Liberty University in the fall, and he asked me to make him a quilt. And like I said, sometimes I make quilts, but usually I stick to the smaller things. But he wanted a quilt that would cover his dorm bed. And I mean, that was the biggest quilt that I've made to date. And he wanted it. We found fabric that has the school logo on it, which was fantastic. And then I supplemented it because their colors are red, white, and blue. So I supplemented it with some of my Say Can You Sew samples and a couple of other patriotic things that he liked. He went to the fabric store, helped pick it out. But I was super intimidated because it's the biggest one I've ever done. And so I just recently upgraded my sewing machine to one that allows me to do machine quilting with the rulers, the grids, and it was, I was so intimidated because typically I would send it off to the long armor. And he was like, I don't want Claudia to do it. I want you to do it. I want you to make it. I want you to quilt it. And I was like, oh, okay. Because I'm sitting here thinking it's for you, the person I love most in the world. Like, I want it to be perfect. And he's like, no, what makes it perfect is that you made it for me.
Aww.
And I was like, what a lesson to learn from my son, but I did it and he loves it. And I gave it to him the day he graduated and he hasn't stopped like wearing it since. It's the cutest. Every time I go in, he's snuggled up in it. And I just think about him having it at school. And I told him, I was like, every stitch that you see, that's Mama was praying for you when she did that, and like, if I hadn't but if I hadn't quilted it myself, that wouldn't be the case. So.
Right. That's so cool that he really kind of forced you to step out of your comfort zone a little bit and just do it, because he didn't care how it turned out. It's that his mom made it. That's the most important part. That is very, very cool. You know how many people, I don't know if you save t-shirts or anything, but you know how many people make t-shirt quilts and things like that. Mm-hmm. So I was talking to a friend. I had my water heater went out. Wasn't that fun? And so I have all these boxes in my house that were from my son. And in one of these boxes were probably about 20 baseball hats because he used to play baseball. Mm-hmm. I don't know why I kept those baseball hats. Why do we keep some of the things we do? So, I mean, he doesn't need them. And I guess maybe I thought maybe when we'd have children, I'd give them to the child, right? I don't, who knows? But anyways, I was talking to a friend who is a quilter and she has a long arm and she's done some long arm stuff for me. I said, this is a crazy idea. What would you think about me if I cut a lot of the emblems off of the baseball hats and put them in a quilt? I've never seen anybody do that before. I've seen t-shirts. And she says, well, you don't lay flat. I said, but if you cut them out in a square or some type of shape, you can create that square or whatever.
Right, and, you could have
well, I don't have a machine to do that. I have a very simple Singer 1990s machine. So, but anyways, she said, oh my God, that's a great idea. So that's what I did was I cut all this stuff out. Now I haven't put it together. I literally just cut everything out. And she said, let's come to my house and we'll design it and then we'll put it together. And then I'm going to make you submit it to the quilt show next year. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not there yet. She says, oh no, we're going to do this together. And I said, okay, well, we'll try it. I got a year.
Great idea.
But I thought I've never seen anybody take anything from baseball hats from their kids, right? I've seen shirts and I've seen t-shirts and I've seen, so many other things. So
like baby clothes.
Yeah. So anyways, that's kind of what I'm going to be working on in the next year. Just kind of putting things, I mean, and there's lots of different colors, it's the colors of his school, which is like a maroon color. And then there's red, white, and blue for the Texas Rangers. And then there's red and blue and, it's a variety of colors. So it's going to be quite interesting putting it all together. But I take her experience, not mine, and we'll combine the two and we'll see what we come up with. I'll share it with you
Please do.
when we get done with it. I think it's going to be quite the process. And actually, I may even maybe I just need to take a journey of how I did the process and show people that it can be done when you think it can't be. So, wow. All right. So let's talk about what advice would you give to someone looking to start their journey either in crafting or sewing, hand lettering, I mean, any kind of outlet for them. What advice would you give them?
I think really we already talked about that, which is just practice makes progress, and that, you need to remove that idea of being perfect at something and don't let that stop you from starting it and trying it, because you're never going to be perfect. So just give it a shot. I think that's the biggest obstacle that people face when it comes to creativity. I can't tell you how many times all over the country I've been teaching workshops, to different age levels, different subject matters, but the common theme is people always saying, I can't do that like you. Mine won't look that good. Stop comparing, stop expecting perfection, and just give it a try, because it doesn't even matter what it looks like when you're done if you had fun doing it.
Exactly. It's interesting because I had mentioned earlier about my friend and her 10-year-old niece learning how to knit. And what I liked about this person that I shared with her to watch is that, go buy inexpensive fabric. She said, go buy inexpensive needles, go buy inexpensive yarn, because until you get used to doing it, because you're not going to be perfect. So
Right.
go buy some inexpensive fabric that you can, Walmart sells fabric. Go pick up some fabric at Walmart. It's not bad. It's not the greatest, but it's a great place to start and practice. And once you get better at it, then you go to the quilting stores and then you buy Amy's fabric and other people's fabric to make quality quilts, quality items, table runners, whatever you want to make, right? I just think that's a smart way to go about doing it. And I love that you're telling people and teaching people these tips and tricks on. And my favorite thing too, Amy, was looking over their shoulder, seeing what they're creating. I mean, it never, it blows me away, the creativity that people have. It just does. It really, really does. So that being said, we could probably sit here and chat about a lot of things all day long, but we won't. Tell us, how can people reach out to you? Where can they find you? Can they call you? Can they email you? Can they go to your website? What is the best way? Where can they find you?
So for inspiration, you want to head to amylattacreations.com, which is my website, and you'll find it's a variety of things there. You'll find I have a page where all of my free quilt patterns are organized. I have a page that's dedicated to each of my fabric collections, and that has some free patterns as well. Then if you're interested in the lettering, I have free practice pages that you can download and print out, as well as instruction. I also have just like regular craft project ideas, seasonal things that you can do with the family. So all different kinds of things, but hopefully it's organized in a way that you can find what you're looking for. And just, you can visit that website anytime. I'm also active on Facebook. I've got my Facebook page as well as that group. The group is called Amy Latta and Friends. So if you go on and search for Amy Latta and Friends, it'll come up and ask you that question, and then you can hop in and join in our weekly show and tell thread. I'm on Instagram. It's at Amy Latta Creations. So that's me everywhere. So anywhere on social that you want to find me, it's at Amy Latta Creations. I do have a YouTube channel. Mostly what's there, I have some tutorials that I filmed. Like I had a pattern that was on the back of the most recent polyfill 16-ounce bag. So I have like a video tutorial for how to make that. But I also, there's on the YouTube channel my Good Day PA segments. I do like lifestyle TV show segments, and you can find those on YouTube. So you can find me in all of those places. And if you want to chat, Amy Latta Creations at gmail.com, or you can Instagram message me. I'm on there all the time, so more than I should be. So you can always message me there.
Well, Instagram's addicting. Once you get on there, it's hard to get off, isn't it?
It is, you know, I'm torn between it's so inspirational and it makes me play the comparison game, which I don't want to do. So it's sort of a balancing act.
Yeah, I bet. Well, I hope you all enjoyed this today. It was really a pleasure for me to have Amy here today. I am really excited. She said yes to coming on the podcast, and just go check her out. Go join her. Well, some of her fabric you can't. When is it coming out? In January?
The first one, Bloom and Sew, comes out in July. So hopefully your quilt store will be carrying it.
Okay.
I know some of the online ones like, let's see, Shabby Fabrics, I think. Either that or Fat Quarter Shop, one of them has it. And Missouri Stars Quilt Company is going to have it. So some of the online, and there, you know, a lot of local fabric stores, hopefully. So that'll be shipping next month. You can get Bloom and Sew. Sunny Honey is September. Forest Friends is November. And then January for Oh Say Can You Sew.
That's awesome. I am so excited. Thank you so much for being here today. And we'll see you next time, everybody. We never know who we're going to bring on next. So stay tuned. Have a great day.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss a new podcast. There's always something new to learn. See you next time.